I want to start by saying something that most parents are too afraid to admit out loud. I handed my son a screen because I was exhausted. Because I needed 5 minutes of silence. Because dinner wasn't going to cook itself and the laundry wasn't going to fold itself and my brain was already running on empty before 9 in the morning. And I am not ashamed of that anymore. But I am here to tell you what I found out, and some of it is going to be uncomfortable to hear. Because what I discovered changed everything about how I parent. And if you are watching this right now, something in you already suspects that what I am about to say is true. So let me give you something real first. The first thing I noticed was the eyes. Not dramatic, not movie-level scary, just different. There was a kind of flatness that settled in after long screen sessions. Like the lights were on, but nobody was home. My son would sit at the dinner table and he would be physically present but mentally somewhere completely else. I would ask him a simple question and it would take 2 or 3 attempts before he even registered that I was speaking to him. And I told myself it was normal. I told myself every kid does this. I told myself I was overthinking it. I was not overthinking it. Here is what the research actually shows, and pay close attention because this part matters. The human brain, especially a developing brain, releases dopamine in response to fast-moving stimulation. Every notification, every new video, every switch between apps or games triggers a little hit of that chemical. And what happens over time is the brain starts recalibrating. It starts expecting that level of stimulation constantly. And the real world, the world where dinner conversations happen and books exist and creative play unfolds slowly, that world starts to feel boring. Not just a little boring. Unbearably, intolerably boring. And now your child cannot sit still, cannot focus, cannot tolerate delayed gratification. Not because they are broken, not because you are a bad parent, but because their brain has been trained by hundreds and hundreds of hours of hyper-stimulating content to expect a reward every 3 seconds. I am going to say that again because it matters. Their brain has been rewired to expect a reward every 3 seconds. And here is where it gets personal for me. I started noticing that my son was becoming someone I did not fully recognize. The creativity that used to just pour out of him naturally, the imaginative games, the random drawings, the made-up stories, it was disappearing. Not all at once, slowly, the way paint peels from a wall in a humid room. You do not notice it day by day, but one afternoon you look up and the wall looks completely different and you cannot remember when it changed. He stopped picking up toys. He stopped asking me to play. He would just find a way to get back to the screen. And if I took the screen away, there was a meltdown that felt completely disproportionate to the situation. We are talking 20-30 minutes of genuine emotional dysregulation, tears, screaming, throwing himself on the floor, and every parent I talked to about this nodded along like it was just part of raising kids now. It is not just part of raising kids now. That reaction, that explosion when the screen goes away, that is a withdrawal response. That is a brain that has been conditioned to depend on a specific chemical reward reacting to the sudden removal of that reward. And I know that sounds extreme, but the science is not subtle on this point. Now listen, I want to be really honest with you right now. This video is not about making you feel guilty. If you have been using screens to manage your household, you are not a bad parent. You are a parent living in the modern world trying to survive. I have been there. Every single day I have been there. The screen was not the enemy. My understanding of what it was doing was the problem. And I want to mention something quickly. We do have a program linked in the description below, and right now it is available for families who are ready to make a real shift. I am not going to pressure you, but if any part of what I am saying is landing, I would encourage you to look at it now rather than later, because later has a way of turning into never when life gets busy. You will probably tell yourself you will look at it after this video. Most people do not, but you already know that about yourself. Let me keep going because this is where the story changes. When I finally made real structured changes, not just taking the iPad away cold turkey, which does not work by the way, but genuinely intentional, research-informed changes to how screens existed in our home, the transformation was almost disorienting. Because I had forgotten what my son was like before, and watching him come back was one of the most emotional experiences of my parenting life. The first week was genuinely hard. I want to be honest with you about that. There is no version of this where the first week is easy. The protests were loud, the boredom complaints were constant. He told me he had nothing to do approximately 40 times in a single afternoon. And I held the boundary. Not perfectly, not without my own frustration, but I held it. By the end of the second week, something started shifting. He picked up a book. Not because I told him to, just because it was there and he was bored enough to try it. And then he read for 90 minutes straight. I nearly cried standing in the hallway watching him because I had not seen him sit still with something non-digital in so long that I had actually started to wonder if he was capable of it anymore. Week 3, he started building things again, creating things, talking to me differently, Not just the transactional conversations of can I have this and when is dinner, but actual conversations, curious questions, observations about the world around him. One afternoon he told me something he had noticed about how shadows move, and I sat there genuinely stunned because the depth of observation in what he said was something I had not heard from him in a very long time. His sleep changed. This one surprised me most. I did not fully connect the screen use to the sleep problems until I saw what sleep looked like without it. He started falling asleep faster, staying asleep, waking up in the mornings without the fog that I had come to think of as just his personality. It was not his personality. It was chronic sleep disruption caused by blue light exposure and a nervous system that never fully got to wind down in the evenings. His mood stabilized. The random afternoon meltdowns, not all of them, but most of them, quietly disappeared. He started tolerating frustration better. He stopped giving up on hard things after 30 seconds. He started being able to sit with discomfort in a way that genuinely felt like watching someone grow. And here's the thing that I want you to sit with for a moment. None of what I just described required a perfect parent. It did not require unlimited time or resources or patience. It required understanding. It required knowing what was actually happening inside his developing brain and responding to that reality instead of just reacting to the surface behavior that I could see. Because here is what I know now that I did not know before. The behavior is never the real problem. The behavior is always communication. The meltdowns, the defiance, the inability to focus, the emotional explosiveness, those are symptoms. And when you treat a symptom without understanding the root cause, you will be treating it forever. You will be exhausted forever. You will be in a constant cycle of conflict with your own child forever. And that is the real cost of screen overuse that nobody talks about. Not just the neurological effects, the relationship cost. The slow erosion of connection between you and your child because every interaction has become a battleground over the device. Because they want it, and you are the one standing between them and it, and suddenly you are the villain in their story, and that is a terrible place to parent from. I have talked to so many parents who are living in this exact dynamic right now, parents who feel like they have lost their child to a screen. Parents who are watching their kid become more isolated, more anxious, more reactive, more dependent on digital stimulation. Parents who feel helpless because nothing they have tried seems to work. And the reason nothing has worked is not because those parents are not trying hard enough. It is because trying harder at the wrong approach just means failing with more effort. What works is understanding. Consistency, a clear framework that actually accounts for how a developing brain responds to change. And when parents have that, the results are not gradual and barely noticeable. They are significant. They are visible. Families who go through this kind of structured process report that within the first 30 days, the majority of the behavioral symptoms they were dealing with either reduce dramatically or disappear entirely. That is not a small thing. That is getting your child back. That is getting your home back. There is a cost of inaction here that I need you to think about. Every month that passes where your child's brain is being shaped primarily by screen stimulation is a month of neurological development happening under those conditions. This is not fear-mongering. This is the actual biological timeline of childhood. These years do not repeat, and the patterns that get established in these years have a reach that extends far beyond childhood. I am not saying that to scare you. I am saying it because when I finally understood the real stakes, I stopped hesitating and I started acting. And the return on that was immeasurable. You know, most parents who are watching this right now will do nothing different tomorrow. Not because they do not care, not because this did not resonate, but because life is loud and this moment will pass and the urgency will fade. I know how that works. I have done it myself, but some of you are going to be different. Some of you are going to look at the program linked in the description right now and make a decision to do something today instead of waiting for a better time that never comes. That decision, that one moment of actually following through, that is the difference between watching your child struggle for another year or watching them transform. The link is there. The question is whether you are ready to use it,